Hello, everybody. Welcome to Adobe Live. My name is Flynn, and I'm delighted to be here once more with Ramez Harikrishnasamy. Ramez, how are you going?
I'm doing good. How are you, Flynn?
I'm really good, thank you. You guys might hear the Rosellas know that it's Adobe Live, and so they're all on my roof having a little Rosella party. So you might hear some birds, some birds in the background this morning. Sorry about that. We'll play some music, see if we can get the thing started. But yeah, wonderful to have you back. We've got 3 episodes, which is great. So we're halfway. We started last week, which you're going to give us a bit of a recap on in a moment, which will be super
Yep.
cool. Continuing learning and understanding photo manipulation, how we can use Photoshop to create these surreal environments, so real that you think you might actually be there and it might be real. Great to see some friendly faces in chat. Hey, Festus. And also, oh, that's my face. I mean, I'm friendly, but I'm not going to say hi to myself. And also Johanna is in the chat. That's super cool. If you guys are watching this anywhere else other than Behance, that's the chat that we're using today. So if you do have questions or comments or you want to say hello, behance.net/live is the chat that we'll be using. So if you're over on YouTube or something, come on over and say hello. The Rosellas, me, and Ramez would love to see you and hear from you. We're here for a little bit under 90 minutes today, so we'll get started in a moment. Stick around. We also have Andrew Hockradell doing his creative challenge. So I think it's the 4th creative challenge this week immediately after this live stream. So we'll be hanging out and checking out that too. But yeah, enough about that. Should we jump into, I think you were going to give us a recap on what we did last week.
Yes, I am. Let me just show you what I have on my
Awesome.
screen. There you go. So this is what we created last week, right? So as you can see, we ran through the definitions in case you missed that one. So we talked about what is photo manipulation last week. So in case you don't know, it's basically alter few photos together and create a brand new story out of it. And the importance of photo manipulations, of course, first thing first is the concept. So must have a storytelling. Make sure you use resolution images. Lightings and shadows is a very important thing. Colors, detailing, and of course, final touches is very important. And I also shared some of my photo manipulation that I've done. Like a few weeks back, and I also done a couple of it like yesterday. So I'm a person who like to keep creating stuff. And last week, of course, we had a look at this one. So
Yeah.
as you can see, that 5 images, or that's on the left, that's what we use to create the image on the right. So even though these images were taken in all different places, you can see with Photoshop, we can just use select subject to cut these images out and use color balance and color lookup to make sure the colors matches on top of each other, and you get to recreate a scene that nobody has ever seen before. So
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
And for this week, yeah, there you go.
I was just going to say, for those that are, if you're watching this series on YouTube, yeah, definitely jump back and watch that first episode, because Ramez is going to be ramping up a little bit. There's a lot of techniques that Ramez showed that were just incredible, like to give perspective, to make it feel like it was real. Things that you might not think about, like blurring that background out, Gaussian blur, some of the foreground effects, the light coming through, color lookup. There's lots of tips in there. So yeah, definitely check that out if you haven't already.
Cool. For this week, so I thought it would be nice to actually lift some things up. For example, 2 pre-streams that I've done with Flynn was taken place on the land. So I thought it would be nice for this time around, we go outer space,
Outer
right?
space.
Again, yes, outer space. I love space and stuff like that. And I think it would be cool to use this 90 minutes to recreate something that it matches the, like, that science fiction movies. I think it'd be nice to recreate a scene out of that one. But this time I'll be using a lot of different types of stock images. You can see there's a lot of, even though they're all dark background, and I'll show you guys how to remove it with a simple click of a button, right? So we're going to use like blending modes and stuff like that. From these images itself, you probably have no idea what I'm going to create, but that's the beauty of it, right? If I have to get these images, pass it to another photo manipulator, he will recreate it in a different way. So that's the beauty of photo manipulation. It's always based on what you think that might go, that might work. So for me, I have something in mind. So let's get started, right?
Awesome.
So for this one, I think it would be nice to have a wider canvas. So I'm using 16 by 9 because I want to show more of the space. So yeah. So first thing first, I am quickly going to just import in this astronaut, right? So I am not going to use the person that's on the left. So I'm just going to use the person on the right. So I'm going to just select that person. I'll just copy it, paste it back, and I'm going to use W to quickly select him. Select subject. So it's so very, very important to make sure that all the edges of this person is selected. So I'm going to just zoom in and see. Even though Photoshop helped you in terms of like 90% of the selection, there are sometimes you can see how this part over here, right? It didn't get selected because it's too much to the white area. So that's that. We're going to select that. And I'm going to go in here and deselect this area. So I'm going to press alternate to deselect that. And I'm going to deselect this area. Okay, everything else looks good. So I'm going to now mask it, right? And I'll just convert this to smart object very quickly. There you go. Let's call this astronaut. Okay, now it's time to resize. So just press on Control T to transform. And of course, I have something in mind. I think it would be nice to position this person over here, just like that. A bit smaller. And I want to make sure that this person is in the center. In order to do that, just select all, press on Control A, and you get to see these settings up here. Just press on this one. So with the canvas, it will make sure that it's centered. For example, let me do that again. If I were to move this person over here, select all, press on the center here, it will bring it to the center. Again, I like to use like a very symmetrical kind of like manipulation most of the time. So I'll always make sure that they're always in the center. So that's that. And now time to bring in my next stock images, which will be this Earth.
Awesome. There's one thing I didn't mention actually. So we do have a Q&A break, everybody, at there's a little timer over here. So if you're not used to this version of Adobe Live, yeah, we have a Q&A break at like 38 minutes, so about halfway. But don't let that stop you asking questions as you go. It's just like a little bit of a 5-minute break to answer some questions that might pop up. But yeah, so let us know if you do have any questions in chat.
Cool. So yeah, do ask questions. I love to hear them and see if I can answer them. Cool. And as you notice, according to our previous streams, I like to change the color lookup at the end. For this time around, I think it would be nice to just apply it now itself before we go in further. The reason why I'm doing that is because then I can already feel what my photo manipulation is going to look like. For this one, I have something in mind. I don't want to use the typical earthy color where it's like bright blue and all that. So there's a reason behind it. For this, I'm going to change to edgy amber. Reasons because there's a mission where what happened is that the world is no longer a place to live. So what happened is that this astronaut managed to escape, but there is like a mission. So that's something that I'm going to create now. So I'll let you guys know what is that mission, or you can probably will see it later on. So that's this. Okay, so we have the Earth. So you can see by just adding on color lookup, you can change the whole color spectrum. See, I didn't even change this color balance to yellow or whatever not, right? So I'm going to place it there. And of course, Earth is very bright and stuff like that. Astronaut is here. And if you're wondering why is he hanging just like that, there's a reason behind it, right? When I talk about stock images, it depends how you see stock images. For example, as you can see here, this is a window of a plane, right? For me, when I see stuff like stock images, it's not just what it is. It can be something else. For example, what I'm going to do is I am going to enlarge this. I'm going to rotate this, and it's going to become a window of a space shuttle.
Cool.
A huge one. Right? I'm going to enlarge this just like that.
And you're obviously using like quite high quality stock imagery
to
be able to scale
correct.
Like that.
So there's not pixelated and all that, right? So it's super important. That's why I said the main elements of photo manipulation that you need to use high-res images. So yeah, so make sure you do that. And I'm going to just bring this right below the astronaut. There you go. So it's standing there. You can see, you can already visualize what's going to happen and all that. So here, so on the plane window, I kind of like this part here, the left-hand side. Even though this is actually the slider on the window, I thought it would be nice to have this some sort of like a light up panel, right, of this shuttle. So what I'm going to do is I need to replicate it because obviously this part, it's missing that. So I am going to first cut this image into half so that I can flip and make it to a horizontal and then place it on the right side. So I'm going to do a masking, okay? And I'm going to duplicate it by pressing Ctrl J. That's like a duplicate shortcut. I'm going to flip this horizontal. There you go. And I'm going to move this right onto the right hand side. Just like this. Boom, perfect. Okay, press on enter. And then just to make sure that it's in the center, I'm going to just select both of this, press Ctrl T so I can move this in the center. Perfect. Okay, that's cool. And I'm going to now merge it.
Can you use the same technique that you used before to center the astronaut, to center those two?
We can too, because this is just a slight, what do you call a difference. So I can use arrow if I want to. If I don't want to, it's okay. I can always select all. I must make sure that I group it first because these are all in a different layer. Else, this window here will be centered here.
Right.
So that's wrong. So I need to group it first. So make sure you group it. Okay, like same thing, Control A, and then you get to see up there. There you go. Perfect. Now it's centered.
Cool.
Yeah, that's that. And I'm going to just quickly group it to Smart Object. Let's call this window. Okay, and time to cut this out. For example, obviously he need to look through something, right? So if I lower down my opacity, you get to see this view. So that's what I'm going to do now. I am going to select this part of the window. To do that, I'm going to press on W for quick selection. And let's see if this area is being selected. I need to make sure my cursor is really huge. There you go. Let's see. Perfect. Okay. So of course, I need to select. Okay, as you can see, right? I've selected this part of the window. But if I have to press on masking, see what happens. And that is wrong, right? Because I did select that. So in order to fix this, obviously I need to flip the selection. In order to do that, just press on Ctrl-Shift-I. When you Ctrl-Shift-I, it will invert the selection. And now if you mask it, you get to see that. Right? And of course, there are sometimes you get this edgy, which is not so clean. We're going to fix that in a very quick moment. So just press on L. L is my favorite tool. It's a very sharp it's called polygonal lasso. What I'm going to do, I'm going to do a manual fixing here because it's very, very hard to this is going to take some time, but it will be very quick. Okay, we're just going to do this here like that. Or another way to do this, of course, you can fix this way earlier and then you just flip it over, which I can do that now if I want to, because I don't really like this black frame around it. So that's the reason why I'm going to remove it. See, by just using polygonal lasso, even though it's curvy, I still can control my cursor. Again, I've been cutting out so many images, so practice makes better. So do always practice so that you get a very perfect edges and all that. And in this tutorial also, we get to learn new techniques. For example, stuff that's being used to add on filter, like for example, satin and all that we always use for text effects. We're going to use that for an actual photo manipulation. You'll be amazed how the effect's going to look like, because we are slightly going towards more into advanced editing. So this will be super, super useful for you guys. And
you're using the polygonal lasso, not the magnetic one, right? Yeah.
No, even if I have to use that, it probably will be different because it's a bit crooked, like the edges. It might not get the perfect bevel. So now I'm going to just switch my brush to B, because we are already in the masking area here. So I can just brush this out like this.
Easy.
Perfect. Control D to deselect. Now that's perfect. And if you notice, the reason why I picked the window of an airplane is that I get the perfect lighting. I want the outer side to be brighter. And of course, here we have a problem when it comes to the astronaut. In order to fix the astronaut shadow, here's what you're supposed to do. Create a new layer. Make sure you mask it. Let's call this shadow. want you to press on D if you don't have the color palette black and white already. For example, if your color is like this, if you want to quickly switch to black and white, press on D. It's something that I mentioned on my previous streams. This is a quick way to switch it. And I want you to drop the shadow onto the guy, right? I create a new layer, I drop it to the shadow, perfect. And now I want you to lower down the opacity, not so much, right? There you go, that's perfect. There's also another way to get this done. This is a new technique. If you go back to the astronauts layer, you can go down here, there's an FX. But most of this FX is being used for text editing. Like for example, like drop shadow in a shadow for a text. But guess what? This satin over here can also be used to create more effects. Can you see that? There you go. So it's super cool. So if I were to move things around, you can see here, right? It already gives me the effects of like, oh, the back part need to be darker, the edges should be brighter, right? So I don't have to spend so much of time editing stuff. So this is perfect. So I'm going to just shift this like this, and I'm going to move some of my distance over here. I can adjust stuff. And the best part here is that you can have more settings, right? For example, if I press on this, you get to have a different types of lighting. So this is usually used for text shadow. So what happened is that, again, I've been using Photoshop for so long, and I'm a curious person. I like to go in and find out, oh, wow, what's this? Can I use this for something else and stuff like that? So cool. So now that we have that, I'm going to just move the distance just like this and click OK. I'm quite happy with the lighting. Of course, there's more to be modified. Don't worry about that. We can do that later. And go to the window. I want you to do the same. Go back to FX down here, press on satin, so I get another darker view, as you can see here, right? Show and hide. There you go. So it's perfect. It's really, really beautiful effect. So I want you to pick that one and reduce the opacity a bit, just like this, and click OK. Now, it doesn't make sense for you.
I didn't realize that there were different color options, like for lighting in the space in adjustment layers. That's amazing.
Yeah, it is. Right, exactly. So even though, you see, that's the beauty of Photoshop. It doesn't mean like if this function is just for a certain one, a certain component or certain effects, it can be applied for everything. Again, it's all about exploring, right? So that's what we're doing right now. And of course, when I create my photo manipulation, I like to imagine, this is super, super important. I did mention my first stream. You need to imagine you are at the back there trying to capture this moment. Of course, it doesn't make sense for him to be standing on the panel of the window. So because it's not flattened, as if he jump off like a flat panel underneath and then viewing it on the window. I don't want that. In order to fix that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to import another image. I have this image over here, right? This one. I really, really like the still looking floor. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut the floor and place it on the bottom of the panel where he stands. So I'm going to reduce my opacity again so that I get the view. I'm going to press on Shift Alternate to distort, because you need to understand when it comes to perspective, it's very important to see where is he standing and how the panel is supposed to look like. There you go, that works. And of course, it's not wide enough, right? You can press on Alternate Shift and move at the corner, right? So that you can hide because if I didn't, I have these edges over here, which I don't want. So I'll just hide it just like this. And I think I'm done here. And let's level up the opacity. Let's zoom in. We can always use arrow to move things up slightly. So I'm going to press on that. Okay. Now, press on M. M is for marquee selection here. And I want you to just select the floor just like this. Okay. And then mask it. Now he's standing on a panel, right? It's a flat one. So that works better. So I want to move the astronaut slightly downwards. Okay. And okay. Now, of course, we need to fix the shadow. It doesn't make sense for him, the lighting of the still that is too bright up, because you know there's the window and the light doesn't flow at the edges. So first, same thing. I want you to go to the still, go for satin. Let's see if that works. Perfect. I kind of like that one. Okay, let's do a bit of distancing. Can you see that? It's super, super amazing, right? to use this.
And so what are you looking for specifically when you're looking to add an adjustment layer over the top here?
Like this one? Oh,
Yeah.
so you can see, right, the distance. Like for example, when I move the slider, here, it teaches us many things because shadows and lighting is very important. Right? If I were to have my settings like this, so I have this bright light at the bottom. Does that mean there's actually a light panel on top?
Right.
That's flashing through down? Does that mean I need to fix the background of this person also to have a bit of lighting reflected on this person? Right? All that. But in back of my mind, there's only one light source, which is the earth. Right? The light is coming from there. And also other component, which I will reveal later. Right? So for now, I am actually happy if the distance is not so much like this. This is cool enough, but I want to add manual shadow. So what I can do is I can always create a new layer on top, and I call this again shadow. And I'm going to choose a brush, which is really huge, like this. And I'm going to lower down my flow, which is 26. That's perfect. And see what happens, right? So I'm going to do a manual fixing here. So when I do this, you know the light is only one source. Again, I don't have to depend on the setting anymore. The setting might work for some cases, but not all. But that's okay. There you go. That's done. And I'm going to just reduce my brush a bit more and brush it at the back here so that the focus is always in the center. And also, I think I'm going to do a bit of adjustment onto the floor where I have this black tint over here, which I don't need. I'm going to press on B and remove that very quickly. Okay, perfect. So now that this is done, he's standing. Of course, shadow is very important. If the light is flashing through the front, the shadow is at the back. In order to do that, of course, first, we fix the floor. Let's call this light. I'm going to press on B again, and I want to pick a color from the picture itself. So I'm going to look for a color, this source, that's perfect. Please change normal to soft light because I don't want a very intense lighting. Why I'm doing this is that I'm going to have a bit of lighting on the floor, on the steel floor. So in order to do that, what I'm going to do is, again, you won't be able to see this brush that I'm going to add because, again, it's beyond the floor's masking. So I'm going to just press 2 times and you get to see the shape. There you go. It's over there. Press on Shift and Alternate. Make sure you do this. What that means is that I'm going to resize the light and I'm going to bring it down. Can you see that?
Yeah, it's very subtle, but yeah, I can see it.
It's very subtle. Yeah. And then enlarge it slightly. And of course, if you want to have a brighter light, you can. What you can do is you can always use other blending. But for soft light is something that I'm looking at. Again, I don't want like too drastic. So yeah, soft light might work. If you want to have more of the soft light, what you can do, you can always duplicate it. Yeah, just like this. And it's just very, very subtle. Okay, now that I have the canvas, next thing is I'm going to fix the shadow. Right above the light here, I'm going to create a new layer called Man's Shadow. Okay, so that is a manual way of creating shadow. I want you to press on B again. Again, your color palette is different, right? I want black and white, so press on D so that your color palette switches to black and white. Resize your brush, and I want you to do a manual coloring like this. Again, I'm just brushing based on what I think the shadow might look like. You don't have to worry if it's not right or if it's too intense. Again, the beauty of opacity is there. You don't have to adjust the levels and everything yet. So what I can do is I'm going to reduce, oh, that's the wrong one. Go to the Man Shadow and reduce the opacity, just like this. And if you want to adjust, again, there are a few things we have to take into consideration. As you can see, the shadows are here. It shouldn't spread beyond the man's feet, right? So in order to fix that, go back to the Man Shadow, press on T, and right click on it. This is also one of my favorite tools. It's called warping. So by doing this, you can move things like this, right? So you don't have to do a manual adjustment. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stretch shadow and move up here just like this. Similarly, like this. Gonna move up. Again, this is based on, again, my imagination, how the light's supposed to be. And of course, it doesn't make sense for him to have this very bright light, like just like that, right? So I'm going to do a manual fixing for that one.
The
So I'm
bright
going to
light
on
on the
back
back of his
yeah,
on the back of his foot
correct,
wouldn't
the
exist.
feet.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. So you can see I still have the shadow that I created manually, right? On top of this, so I'm gonna bring in that shadow, lower down the opacity, like this. Okay, so I'm going to also add a manual shadow. For example, what happens here is that if I were to brush something now, let's zoom in, let me show you. So I can do this if I want to, like a manual fixing, or I can use, again, another favorite way of creating shadows more seamlessly is change to a gradient that's black and white, zoom out, and put it up just like that. So you don't have to brush manually. Oh, I need to make sure that it's darker here or it doesn't reach on top. You don't have to worry. By doing this, again, you have full control how the shadow is going to look like. So you don't have to worry so much on that one. Again, in Photoshop, the beauty thing is that there's never a one way to create things. Use your imagination to create many more different techniques. If you maybe after this you manage to encounter another way of creating shadows. So I'm gonna increase the shadow of the person a bit more, just like this. Maybe not too much, like that. Okay, and I'm gonna make another manual adjustment. I wanna add, see, this is a sharp shadow. I wanna add in a bit of hard shadow as well. Let's call this hard shadow. Let's zoom in here. And again, manual way. What I'm going to do is this time, because it's a harsh meaning you need to have a very sharp shadowing. So that's first level of shadowing, right? This is second. Again, I'm pressing on shift and I'm using polygonal lasso to create the shadow. Again, I'm following the shape of his feet. There you go, just like this. And I'm going to press on G again, shift G again, so that you switch between all this toolbar under bucket and drop the color, just like this. Control D to deselect. And if you zoom, if you lower down the opacity, you get to see that. And of course, if you zoom in, you have this sharp lines around his feet. You don't want that. In order to fix that, you go to filter, go to blur, go for motion blur. So motion blur, you can see here, right, a many different direction. Obviously, it's on the floor. I want to use 0, and I want to increase the distance. So when I do that, I get that, right? So that's that, and I'm gonna reduce again the opacity, not so much, and then the man's shadow behind here. I'm gonna do a bit of masking. Press on B. Make sure your flow is a little, not so much, and just erase the back part here. Because if you have a very intense shadowing, then you look like he's like, again, shadow is super important because it might look like he's floating. That's one thing. So very, very important. We probably will fix the shadow more later on because we have more things to add before that. And as I said, right, this window slider here, it's super nice. It's like an extra feature that I have. So I think it would be nice to have like a light up panel, right? In order to do that, I'm going to recreate that. So let's create a new layer. Okay, this layer is empty. Let's call this just light will do. And again, a manual way of creating things. I'm going to press on M. Again, this is an empty selection. So I'm going to go down here and I'm going to just select this area here. I'm just going to draw a very thin rectangular line which is super long. Again, I can always use arrow to move things around. Okay, and I'm going to move there and I need to light it up. In order to do that, what you can do is you can quickly use a bright light, a yellow light might do, and press on G and just add on the color and press Ctrl D. You can see that now you have a panel that's light up. But of course, you know, when it comes to science fiction movies, it's always nice to have this outer glow. So I'm going to do that. Go down here. Again, we're going to use the FX style again. Let's go for outer glow. So when you press on outer glow, there's a lot of settings here that you can use. You can use spread, you can use size. Again, if I increase the spread, see what happens. That is too strong. So for this, I just want a soft one. So just slide this there and increase the opacity so that it's light up a bit. You can see that it's glowing slightly. Let's see before and after. There you go. That's perfect, like a decent lighting. And of course, there's a sharp edges here that bothers me. Of course, we can always remove it by just clicking on masking, press on B. Oh, I think I did the wrong one.
This is looking amazing. This is looking so cool.
Yeah.
So I'll let everyone know as well. We got about 15 minutes to Q&A as well. So let us know if you do have the questions.
Perfect.
I love this just in case, because there's been quite a few people that have joined since we've started. The original window, the outside was from a plane. So you can imagine like flipped the other way. That was like, it's just a sliding thing from the plane. And just chatting with Johanna as well, like absolutely love that you've used something like that to make this like surreal space scene. It's super cool.
Yeah. So again, right, it depends how you see things. Like we always see things as the way it is. For example, from the front view, I'm a person who like to walk around and 360 to just see if there's anything else I can use this for. I think it's like a survival mode, right? When you are stranded somewhere in an island, you get creative automatically. So imagine that, right? So I'm gonna just click on masking quickly, and I'm gonna just brush the edges of this light, because for me it doesn't make sense for it to be too sharp. So when you brush it up, see what happens. You get this very, very nice looking like line here, just like that, right? So if I zoom in, you get to see it. See, super, super soft and all that. Okay, cool. Next, I'm gonna just press on satin. There you go, that works. Okay, so next, of course, I need to duplicate it. So let's press on Control J. Again, we have both sides to light up. So I'm gonna just use my moving arrow here. I'm gonna just move the light quickly over the other side. Okay, that's perfect. And the light here. Okay, so we have two light up panel. And if you want to add more effects, you can too. Just press on B again. What I'm going to do is I'm going to light up the light, just very subtle. You can see that light over there, and use Shift and alternate. Again, resize it, move so that you get this glow reflected on the window of it, right? And we can always reuse assets. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use this soft light. I'm going to duplicate it, and I'm going to move it on the other side, just like that. Nice. So it gives that feel. If I zoom out, I can feel it that he's on outer space and stuff like that, right? So that's cool. Next comes the dramatic part. So in case you're wondering what is happening, I'm going to go in down here, right at the earth layer. I'm gonna bring in some stuff, which would be, again, let me just open this up in a new window first. There you go. So we have this space shuttle. So what happened is that in this story, he's actually not alone. He has a friend. His friend is now in here. And I'm going to bring him. There's a reason why he's there. I'm going to explain that in a very quick moment. Down here, I'm going to just paste it first. I'm going to make this to a smart object very quickly. I'm going to resize it. Just like this. His friend is actually on the space shuttle. Reason is because, like I said, the world is not the best place to live anymore. So his friend managed to find. So they already came out of space, outside the Earth. But the problem is that this place that he's standing, this shuttle, is not working. So they found another one over there. Unfortunately, because of technical problem, the space shuttle over there exploded. So we're going to create that scene, like how you see all this Martian and all that, right? So this kind of movie kind of influenced me to create this. I think it would be nice to have that. And I'm going to remove all this black background. In order to do that, I'm just going to do a quick selection. Press on W and see if I can select only this shadow. Oh, I can't because it's too dark. It's okay. I can always use manual way. Let's use a manual way. Or let's use quick selection. Let's see if that works. Press on quick selection.
So the spaceman had a white background. It was very easy to cut out.
Yeah. So this
A
is a
little bit
black
more
background.
difficult.
Correct. So this works. This is actually fine with me. I don't have to worry about the wing. That's okay. I'm going to remove that anyway. So I'm going to press on masking. Cool. I have a manual fixing to do. There you go. I'm going to select this very quickly. I don't have the other part of the wing because again, it explodes. So I don't need that wing. Imagine it's already fell down. So I don't have to worry about that one. And again, I'm going to press on B to remove the other part of the shuttle. Okay, so I have that. Of course, shadow is something very important, like I said way earlier. As you all know, there's a way to fix it. Let's go setting and see if that can help. Perfect. So I have that, right? So here, like I said, light and shadow super important. You need to imagine where the light comes from. There's two sorts of light right now. So it can be over here because the Earth's light is coming from the bottom. So in order to fix that, you can always move, right? Like I said, setting. Just click on. You don't have to even worry about this settings over here. I'm actually fine with this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have. There you go, right? That's perfect. Yeah, that looks good. So I'm going to press on OK. If I zoom out, okay, I get a scene that I want. Next, like I said, right, it's exploded, part of it. So it's super important to imagine that you're there and you're looking at it. What will happen is that it's on fire. And this, I don't have to worry so much when it comes to this image. I'll just move this to screen. And I will just resize it slowly. Like that. I'm going to place it there. Again, it's already exploded and it's moving too fast. It's going to the bottom of the earth, like it's going to hit down there. But then, like I said, imagine you're there. What are you seeing? So I'm seeing this. And it doesn't make sense for me to have a very, like a soft-looking fire. Like it's just like that. It's on fire. That's wrong because things are moving. It's always important to imagine it's going down. So in order to go down, you need to have a motion. So I'm going to have a motion blur here. Again, this thing is super important, this dial. I'm going to just move this up like this. So you can see the fire is actually moving upwards because it's going down, right? Yeah. So all this angle is super important. So imagine, so I have this blurriness effects here. It shows that it's moving fast down. Again, imagination is super important. If you all have that, utilize it to create your photo manipulation this way. And of course, sometimes when you bring in photos, you tend to have this like a line here. I'm not sure if you can see that. In order to fix that, just press on Control L and move this line here.
Is that because
meaning
you
the black
the screen to
yeah, I use the screen. Correct, that's correct. But just that the black background is not flat black. There's some sort of like a gray tint still. So in order to remove it, just slide this and you'll see that it's gone already. Just a bit. By 10 or 18 slider, like the numbering will work. Okay, that's perfect. And again, use your imagination. You need to imagine that it's going down. What are other things that you usually see? You see fire particles that coming out from the explosion. Just go to normal, again, same thing, screen. I want you to resize it. Control T. Just like this. And these are the little fires that's coming out from the space shuttle. So we're going to do this like this. And same thing, remember how we use the settings for the motion blur? We're going to use that for the same, just that this time around, you don't have to go back to the settings again. You can always go to the motion blur and press on it. So you get that effects already. So in here, you just need to see how much of these fire particles that you want, right? So again, being there, seeing this is probably what I've been seeing. So I'm going to right click also. I'm going to have a bit of like a long tail to it. So I'm going to use warping and I'm going to just do this. Again, it's going downward. So I'm going to press on, there you go. So I have this effects of it going down. And I need to do a bit of masking.
In combination, those things are incredible. Like, I think when you first started showing the fire, I was like, yeah, that makes sense. Like it looked great. Like really, like I could imagine you moving on from there. But a lot of those additional techniques like just really makes it look absolutely real.
Yeah.
Like blurring it out, adding the embers flying out, the direction that it's coming from, and also the shadow just make it look just so much better.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah. So that, like I said, right, I want people to question at times. So it's like, did you use Photoshop, or is it like a steal from a movie? So this kind of questions I like to get, so that I know where am I, like how far have I edited? Is it looking real or not? So all this affects the way I think as well. So it's super important to do this, all this detailing. And also, if you imagine being there again, me standing here, things exploded. There's also a bright fire. There are also some black dust or particles, we call it. So I'm going to bring in black dust as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring this. Okay, here's another trick. See, even though these are bright lights, I'm going to change this to black dust. In order to do that, very easy. Black dust are black, right? This photo, let me just drag this on top of my color lookup so that you can see the original color. This is how it's going to look like. In order to have this inverted to a black particles, just press on, you need to invert it. Just press on Control I. So you have black particles already. So now I want you to move this down very quickly here. Just choose normal blending to darken. And you have black particles. So I want you to just resize and place it over there. Press on enter, you get to see all these black particles. Right? And then just move things around. You get this back all the time is because it's very hard for it to calculate after it process. So for this, the reason why it keeps switching black is because Photoshop, again, that's the settings that I put on my Photoshop so that it saves my memory as well. So there you go. That's there. Even though it's super tiny, again, detailing is super important. There's like black dust coming out from the fire area because, things are burning down. Again, I'm not so happy with the particles. I feel like I want to add more, but this time, a bright lights. Again, it's going down, so I have this. So I'm going to switch this to screen. Okay, I'm going to zoom out. Okay, press on Control T. Make sure you warp it. Again, I have few ideas in mind. I'm going to move this up just like this because I want to make it super dramatic. So I'm going to just move this up, move this down a little. Okay. And again, motion blur is super important. Press on motion blur. You get to see more of this motion over there. And Control T by resizing it and moving it up just like this. Like I said, right? It's already exploded. It doesn't make sense for it to just burn this area here. And for that, I have another stock image. I'm going to bring in my collection of fireballs.
as you do that one, we'll finish the fire and then we'll go to Q&A. So just letting you guys know, if you do have questions, now's a great time to ask. We'll have time for a couple of questions, I think.
Perfect.
I'm loving these movie suggestions, and I'll tell you when we get to Q&A as well. There's been some great movie title suggestions for what this movie would be in chat as well. Keep them coming.
Wow. Cool. So what I'm doing is I just like these fireballs over here, right? I have a collection of it. I really like this one. So what I'm doing is I'm going to just Control C, copy it, hide the rest of the file selection. I don't need it. Place it back. And I'm going to make normal to screen very quickly. Again, like I said, it's exploded. It makes sense for it to release some of the pieces downwards, right? So I'm going to resize that now, very small like this. And I'm going to move it down like that. It's going down. And of course, motion blur is super important. Let's do the motion blur. There you go. It's going down. Maybe that's too much. I don't want it to be too blurry. Let's go back to blur, motion blur, reduce the amount of the moving things. There you go. Just like that. Again, you don't have to bring in another fireball again. Let's call this fireball. I'm going to just press on Control J again, resize it. I'm going to duplicate it and I'm going to make it small so that it doesn't look like a copy and paste job. And move it down here. But of course, this will go to another direction because it's exploded. So it's like it's all over the space. And I'm going to just resize that one more time. And I'm going to bring this and I put somewhere here. Okay, cool. And of
Nice.
course, there should be a spark that should happen. Oh, we have 7 more. Okay, 6 seconds, and I don't mind answering any questions. We're gonna make a pause for this.
Do you want to do Q&A now, or did you want to do the Spark
Yes,
first?
I can. I
Q&A now?
can. I
Okay,
can.
cool.
Yes.
Let's do it. Let's jump in. I love the movie poster ideas. So Cuxty in chat was asking, what would this movie poster be called? Which was super cool. Bad Day with the Deep Fryer on Shuttle 5.
Wow.
New World after 2020. That's very bleak, but yep, appropriate.
Wow. Wow.
Station 21. The
Wow.
Sepian
You guys are
dystopian
creative.
future. The day the half the world lost HBO and Netflix. Awesome, guys. That's so fun. Super
Wow.
cool. But yeah, exactly. Like, it does look so real. Like, it really, as you know, it looks like a movie poster. Or it looks like a scene from
Yeah.
Space Odyssey or something like that. Super cool.
Hmm.
So just a couple of questions, and then we'll get back to it.
Okay.
So Lucas was asking, I have a question. Due to remove the black background, do you like to remove it using the blend option located inside of layer style?
Oh, I think it's the same thing. For example, usually what people do is that, for example, let me just bring up the file selection. Okay, here's the file selection. There's two ways to do it. I can use the normal blending mode, which is right here, or I can go down here and go, which is I think it's here, blending options. They are actually the same. I can even use this blending mode over here, and I think it's this one. Can you see that? Right?
I
But the problem here is that,
Yep.
the problem here is that, can you see there's still a stain over here? So how do I get here? I just go down here and I went from the blending options. When you press that, I don't really get a clean lookup here. This is something that you can fix. There you go, like that. But the problem here is that you still have this black stain around it. Again, this is probably useful for those images that you want to remove. But for in this case, even though it's there, it's removed for this photo manipulation, the effects that I'm doing. But it's still there. But if you want to permanently remove it, this is the way to do it, right? But of course, you have a more problem where you need to go in here and clean all these black areas, which
Right.
will take some time, right? So yeah, that's two options, but depending on you. But for this case, I think using blending mode screen works already for me. I don't have to worry so much on the black marks.
Excellent. Okay, great. Thank you. Thanks for going through that. That's great. I hope that was helpful. Mao is asking, Ramez, what's your favorite Photoshop plugin? So do you use plugins?
No, I don't use plugins. So yeah, like I'm a person who like to, again, I always feel like I'm not done with Photoshop yet. Like, I mean, even though I've been using it for many years, I feel like there's many more stuff that I can explore within Photoshop rather than bringing in plugins. And I feel if those plugins were actually created based on whatever that I, again, there's a manual way and also there's a fast way, right? So I also like manual ways. I feel I learn more in terms of like moving things around by
Right.
myself. I don't have to click on plugin again. Probably I can do that manually where I'll learn few more processes to get things done. So
Yeah.
yeah, I don't use any plugin.
Yep. Great. And there was a question as well. How did you get into photo manipulation and what you do?
Okay. It started back then. I'll say 20 years back, where again I am, as you can see again, the poster at the back. I'm like the Avengers, the Marvel fan. Every time I watch movies, I come back home. That movie's still running in my mind. Like for example, like Spider-Man or whatever, not Superman, DC Comics as well. I feel like I need to transform myself to become a superhero. That's how it got started. I usually call up my sister. We have like a DSLR. She'll take a picture of me, and I'll be the superhero, right? And I'll be like X-Men, Cyclops, and all that. And that's when I learned how to create stuff. Like for example, again, like I said, right, I don't know. It's called photo manipulation back then. I'll like steal all the real-looking stuff from Wolverine, like the gadgets that he have, like all these weapons, and I try to merge it to my hand to see whether it works. Right? Sometimes when I show it to my family members are the first people to give comments back then, and they'll say, "It doesn't look real. It looks fake. How come it looks sharp here? It doesn't blend with your skin, all that." And then it gives me a stress. I'll go back to my computer and I start editing again and again and again, and later on I find out that Marvel movies already been created. People know who is Cyclops is, Ramesh, you can be one. And I try to figure out, is there another way I can apply this photo manipulation into my work where it can so that I have my own what do you call, like a concept or a signature,
Yeah.
and I start creating stories out of photo manipulation. That's how I started.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, Lucas mentioning in chat. Yeah, you create your own universe. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly right. Have you ever created and saved any of your own actions in Photoshop when you come up with steps to do an effect? Like, have you ever recorded an action which you can do in Photoshop, and then something you do all the time, or do you like doing it that manual way so that you're learning?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
I thought so.
exactly. Again, reason is because if I were to use that one way and create an action out of it, like I said, right, infinite possibilities is there. So if I were to just stick to one action, like I said, there's also probably another action, a faster way I can get things done, which probably I yet to explore or I already found it. I don't know. But if I were to do that, it will just stop my ability to find more answers in Photoshop. But if you ask me quick way to find things, that's how I do it. If you look at my Photoshop, you can see my tool presets are always there. These are the ways to fasten my process in terms of selecting the certain tools, like stuff like that. Other than that, I don't do any actions. Probably the actions are useful for web developers who use Photoshop. For example, they want to resize a photo in many different sizes. Probably they can use, but action is something that I don't use. But of course, color lookup is something that's already built in. Again, it's not a plugin in Photoshop. That helps me a lot already in terms of color corrections.
Yeah. Yeah, great, fantastic. There's a couple more questions, but maybe we'll hang on to them towards the end if we do have time.
Okay.
So we'll see how we go,
Sure.
just so we're not stretched for time or anything like that. So yeah, keep the questions coming. Some excellent questions in there, guys. But we'll jump back to your screen now.
Awesome. Yes.
All right. Fantastic. I'm just going to actually say,
Okay.
I absolutely love how many different techniques that you use. You're like a musician, like on a keyboard, and you're using all of the keys. I love it. Like screen adjustment layer, like cutting out things with the polygon lasso, like selecting subject, auto select subject, like using all these things in combination in the right situation is really, really interesting. And I think it's really valuable for everyone to see that, there are multiple ways of doing things for a reason. There's a reason that the polygon lasso is sometimes the right tool to use. Sometimes quick selection is the right tool to use. Sometimes screening out something is the right tool to use. So it's really great, like seeing you use like the whole breadth of Photoshop, when the right situation pops up. So yeah, it's so great watching you work.
Thank you. Okay, let's moving on. Okay, I have a few more stock images to add. Again, I just want to make sure that it looks dramatic. And again, like I said, always imagine being there because there's a fire and there's a lot of like electronic items there, right? It makes sense for it to have these little sparks, right? And I have this stock image over here. This is actually somebody is putting things together. It's like a manual work, right? And
like
you can see like a
welding or
pipe
something.
and all that, welding and all that, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this for, of course, another reason. I'm going to just switch it to screen. I'm going to resize it to have the spark over there. So it makes more sense because things are exploding. Again, it's electronic items and stuff like that. Sparks is usually the thing that you see first when it comes to stuff like that. There you go. I'm going to have that there. And I'm going to also press on Control J very quickly. Again, like I always said, always reuse items, but morph it differently using warp and everything so that it doesn't look like a copy and paste job. It's a no-no. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to resize this just like this, right? I'm going to put this at the back here. And you can see there's a white line. I don't know if you guys can see. I'm going to fix that very quickly. Press on Control L one more time. Let's move the slider. There you go. That's perfect. And I'm going to press on this, right click, warp it. So you have the fire in a different way so that it doesn't copy these effects over here. Always reuse stock images if you don't have enough stock images. You'll be amazed how flipping it horizontal, vertical, you will change the view of people. People won't think that it's actually a copy paste job. So there you go. That's perfect. And I wanna add in more stuff. Let me see. Okay. Okay. Now, before we create all the space shuttles, if you remember, we fixed the shadow of the astronaut. But now that we have this prop over here, it makes sense that on the left-hand side of this astronaut, it needs to be blurred out, like as in faded. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the shadow, mask it, press on B, Make sure your flow is little. And I'm gonna bring in this light over here, reflected on towards the astronaut. There you go, just like this. Because the light is hitting on him.
So that's the light from the explosion, from
Correct.
the flame.
Exactly. Yeah. So always do that.
So that's really interesting to me, because you put that in after you obviously knew that you were going to put the space shuttle in.
Correct.
You
Correct.
prepared for it.
Yeah.
But you didn't put the light in until after you put that light source in.
Correct. It's super important to again, you don't imagine already the situation. The situation haven't happened that time, right? The lighting was done based on what we have achieved back then. Like for example, it was just this window and this light coming from the earth. But we never we never add in the shuttle yet. Now that we added that, we have to fix it according to that situation now. So it's super important. Yeah. That makes sense for you to have light up here. And if you think you want to add more shadows at the side, we can too, but for now it looks good already. And I'm going to just zoom in here and see. There's also one, which is the flare. What I can do is, let me try if I can use this. Right, so I have this flare, which I have. I don't know if I want to use it. Right, it's always nice to place it stuff like this. Right, again, it creates the, like, imagine the world is gonna end. It's already a bad news over here, and then the world gonna explode, stuff like that. Again, it's all up to your imagination. So it's always nice to explore like this. Okay, that's that. I am going to fix the. But yeah, I don't know. It could be damn super dramatic, but I don't know. But yeah, it's always nice to explore. Just press on Ctrl L to fix the white edges first. Okay. Oh. Yeah, you can bring in flare if you want to, but I don't really have that in mind. I don't want to make it too like focus on the flare rather than the situation here. But yeah, and now I'm going to add in more of the effects onto the shuttle. So I have the shuttle over there. Okay, I'm gonna create a new layer. Press alternate. I want to fix some shadows on it. So just press on B. So my color palette is not black and white. Just press on B. I'm gonna make manual fixing of lighting here. Again, I'm just pressing here. I'm just using normal, nothing else. Flow very little. So that of the shadows. Okay, that's cool. Here, and you can see here, right? There's something wrong because it was joined with the other shuttle. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fix this right now. So I can, let's see if I have the other piece from my, what I can do is I actually can grab this and I'm going to add in there. So I have this. Let's convert it to smart object first. So I'm going to just try to join this there because as you can see, this place here is chopped off, obviously because it's joined with the other shuttle, but don't have to worry. We always have with Photoshop and a bit of like cut and paste, right? Use your imagination, you will fix it. Here you go. I'm going to just select this, so this, okay, I'm happy. Mask it. I'm going to press on Ctrl T to resize and hide it this way. Again, I can even make this falling down if I want to. This. Okay, let's do a bit of cleaning. Press on B. Remove this black marks. Here.
Looks like Johanna has the same question that I was about to ask as well. Why did you make it a smart object just at the beginning there before you started?
Okay, cool. Very, very good question. Okay, you see this original image here is 100%, right? When I copy paste, this is like you can see up here. There's like a calculation here. It's 100%. Reason because why I make it 100 smart object is that what if I want to take back this and let me just go back down here. Okay, this one. What if I wanna resize it back to a bigger shuttle? If I didn't smart object it, remember when I resize, it's already pixelated. If you
Right.
because it's still a smart object. So now if I scale it this big, it's still super sharp, right? So
Cool.
that's the thing. Always make it a smart object. It'll be super useful, and then in the future you get to even use it for something else. So yeah.
Right. So if you don't make it a smart object and you scale something really, really big down, and then later you want to stretch the pixels or you want to grow it up, it's no good.
You get pixelated. Yep, no good.
Cool.
So next thing is I am also gonna bring in a bit of fire. It doesn't make sense that this part over here is already this like moving apart from the shuttle. I'm gonna bring in one more. Actually, I have it here. Fire selection. Okay, here I would like to use some of it. Let me see. Okay, this one. So I'm gonna copy this. Okay, copy, and I'm gonna hide this, paste it, convert to smart object. Let's call this fire, and I'm gonna switch it to screen. I'm gonna have a bit more fire over here, and of course, my favorite motion blur. Move it up. Going down. Okay, and also if you're wondering on the yeah, I'm gonna hide the flares distracting me. Okay, if you notice there's a fire and stuff like that, and you know it's how it in science fiction movies, like I'm not sure if you watched Gravity before, starring yeah, it's one of my favorite movie. I watched it like many times. I can't remember how many times. If you always have this spark and a light, we can always do that for this as well. Press on B, make sure your brush is super big. Select the color from, again, I'm pressing on I to find a color. There you go, somewhere here. And you can always light up certain things. For example, if you find this area here is a bit too dark, let me see, here, you can always, there you go, brighten it up. Can you see that? Let me do it one more time. 1, 2, 3. There you go. Even though it's super soft, it creates the light. So when you do that, then you become more realistic. So yeah, always use this technique of, like, brush doesn't mean just for coloring, right? It's beyond that. So I am also going to bring in another spark. This time I'm going to bring this down the layer, place it somewhere here, press on screen so that I can utilize this spark for the other shuttle, small one. Bring this down. There you go. Okay, before that it was never there. So imagine this, if it's not there, and then this shuttle is not there, it doesn't make sense, right? For example, you can see there's a cutoff. So when you keep adding effects, they become more real.
Yeah.
Yeah. That, and again, like I said, always reuse your assets. What I'm going to do now is that I am going to use this sparkles. Again, I'm going to bring it, resize it really slow. Again, the direction of the particles should be the same because it's moving down. So I can always use it at the bottom here. You can see how it's blending with my photo manipulation, just like this, right? There you go. That's the direction. And I'm going to just move this down a bit. And if you want to add more of the effect, for example, you have a bit of particles over here. It's not bright enough. You can always Control J, which is duplicate it, and you can see it become more intense. Because screen here, that's the 100%. You cannot go brighter than that. So when I press on Control J, you have more of the lighting. So let's do that before and after. Before and after. There you go. That's that. So it's happening. So it's watching everything going down. Super sad scene, but I'm enjoying creating this. So yeah. And okay, since lights are coming from there, again you have to imagine if it hits on the astronaut, it also makes sense for it to hit the top part of the window, We're gonna do that very quickly. Let's call this light, press on B. For this, we need to use soft light. Let's not use normal so that it blends with the window. I'm gonna pick a color from, press on I, okay. Press on B back, go up here. I don't know if you can see, but this is the light. I can even increase the flow. Super orangey can't be seen. Let me see if I can use other blending. Yeah, so I'm gonna use overlay for this. Okay, as you can see, I already brush it over here, right? But if you want to move things, you can always press on again, warping. And even within here, you can move. Like for example, you can see how it moving around the window, right? Because you don't have to do a manual fixing. Always use this way. Okay, now you can see the window that it's slightly brighter over there, the edge here, but it's darker over here because the light hits the top part. So this is the manual fixing I'm trying to do. So if you zoom out, you get to see the overall picture. And always important to make sure that you have you check all the lightings whether it works or not. If it doesn't, then try to find the area that doesn't make sense. For example, there are people who's always stuck. I think it's called creative block. It's like, oh, what else can I add? By just sitting there, you might not have the answer. Go out, have a cup of tea or coffee, come back. Again, you'll be looking at many things. Your brain will tend to focus on other things first, and then when you come back here, your brain starts to work. That's how I work.
Yeah.
At times, I do go out and come back, and then try to see is there anything else to add. Now that I keep saying
do you ever share your work with other people before it's completed to get feedback, or do you wait till it's completed first?
I do ask like my closest people like that I have, of course, my wife.
Yeah.
Again, she's not a designer, but she can tell, it would be nice to add this. Because you're a creative person, right? The way you think is different than, again, she studied for all this medicine doctor and PhD and stuff like that. Her way she thinks is different. So when I asked her, why do you think like that? And she said, but then I've seen this somewhere. And she will say that most of people can resonate with that. And I'll be like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Now that I keep talking about this, right? Something hit my mind. Okay, now, if you look at this, this is actually a window. And how do you know whether or not there's a glass in between the astronaut and the shuttle that just exploded?
Right.
In order to create that effects, very easy. I want you to go right where the window is. For example, this is the window. Right underneath it, just create a new layer called glass. Okay, now you have to imagine this. If you're somewhere near a cold area, you know how you have this white fog around your window, right? Like a crack at times, it gets pretty cold. I think it would be nice to have that for this one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select a color from here, zoom out. I am going to, again, it would be nice to have it around the window. Again, I can do a manual way if I want to, or you can always use elliptical mark Q for this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to select like this. This is a mark Q elliptical tool. Okay, so I already have a selection here. Again, it's right below the Windows layer. Press on B, make your brush really big, and do this. Right at the edge of the window, just like this. Okay, that's that. Then press on Ctrl D to deselect. Okay, now if you look at it, let me show you before and after. So you have like a very soft light at the edge of this.
Yeah.
But there's a problem here. It's too clean. So if you think again, imagine going back to the window, you have all this rusty looking texture on the glass. In order to achieve that, just go to glass, mask it. We need to make some cleanup to this soft, clean looking fog. Let's go to brush. Right? Again, I want to mask it. I want to remove some areas. And this is where you look for the right brush. If you go down here, again, all this is already available there in Photoshop. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to lower down my flow. And I'm going to go in here. and remove stuff. Can you see this? There's actually a very harsh looking surface here, so that it creates some sort of like a dirty or fog around it. Because if you have it so clean, it doesn't make sense, right? So yeah. So when you do this, then there's a texture around it. It's it's like a dissolved thing. Or if that can't be seen, no problem. What I can do is I can go here. Oh yeah, now you can see it. So I'm using this brush where you can see the texture around the window. That might work. Now, if I have to show you before and after, it makes more sense. Now it's super clean. Now, if I add on the fog, it's cleaner. It's like it has the more realistic look to it. And if you want to go more further in when it comes to detailing, there's also another way. Again, imagine you standing there. You look. There's a glass in front of you. There should be a reflection of you on the glass.
Right.
Right, like another astronaut. So if you think again, in my previous the stock images that I've added before this, like this one, this is our stock image that we use. There's already another person over here. So it would be nice to just get this person and have it placed in front of him. But the problem here is that, I mean, I can if I want to add, because the person is facing straight, like we are the back of this astronaut. Even though we were to add this effect, might not be seen because it's not the right angle. Unless the person is slanted on 45-degree, then it would be nice to have that person reflected on the glass. So for this thing, it's okay. We don't have to add, but it's important to add the fog around the window. I think it adds more to a realistic look to it. Cool. I'm gonna just go back to the window here and see if I can duplicate it to add so that it can be seen more. Oh yeah, perfect. That looks better. So now you can actually see the edges here, that it's a bit rusty and all that.
Yeah.
Because without it, it doesn't make sense. Let me just group this so that everybody can see. Yeah, before and after, right? So it's super important. There you go. And I think I'm done. I have no more. Yeah, I have nothing else to add, but yeah.
Cool. Oh, it's incredible. Oh man, so good. Yeah, the rust, the rust or the fog, like on the outside of the window, really does like help it. And again, I think that's one of the things, like the space shuttle I was mentioning before. I think it will be easy to think that it's done a lot earlier than a lot of the additions that you made to it. A lot of those small changes, some of them are big. So I guess my first question, and guys, hey, throw in your questions. We've got about 9 minutes left, so we're going to get to some of these questions. If you have new ones, throw them in very quickly before we need to leave. When do you know that you're done with something like this? Do you find
Wow.
when you were learning a little bit more, like maybe not so much now, but when you were learning a little bit more, just for the rest of us, do you find that you went too far and you had to kind of come back a little bit? Is that something that happened, or how do you know when you've gone too far or you haven't gone far enough?
Yeah, very good question. You see, it's never enough. If I have to edit, I can even go beyond this, right? I can keep adding things. When to know it's enough is that whether you are, how do I say, are you happy with it? Like with that particular time that you have, like I said, right? I don't go beyond 5 hours. If go beyond 5 hours, I know I am just making sure that it looks perfect, and I know I cannot get there. And also super important, like I said, right, for designers, it's super important for you to post on social media. Like I said, right, the question you asked before, how do you know if it looks perfect? At times I ask people, right, their thinking is different. Maybe their thought also will help you. Again, I am not a perfect person. So when you put on social media, people will comment. People will say, hey, it would be nice to add this or whatever not. So you have to think whether it makes sense. If it does make sense for your future artwork, it's good to remember that and add on. Because end of the day, it's not only you who's looking at this artwork. There are other people. Again, always make sure you take all this valuable feedback and try to improve on your artwork. There's never, if you ask me, I am never enough with my artwork. Like I'm usually not satisfied. And it's good to have that feeling, because then only you can keep creating. Because if I go like, okay, this is the masterpiece, that I've done, then you're telling your brain, okay, stop thinking. Probably this is it, and just do other stuff, which I don't want to. Right? I want to have this guiltiness in me so that I keep creating. Yeah.
Awesome. That's fantastic. Another question: does the concept is from Andrew Hockradall? Stick around for his creative challenge, by the way, coming up very soon. Great question from one asked to another. Does the concept ever change as you get into working on the piece, or is it pretty set once you get going?
Things will change, can change. For example, if you look at our previous manipulation that I've done, I did told you that when I have something in mind, by looking at the statue, I know there's like a Buddha associated with this lion and all that. If you remember, I did say that I want the monk looking at the lion. It gives me some sort of like an interaction, like a feel, like an energy being flowing, but I couldn't get the stock image, and I switched the concept so that when I have another monk image, then I associate with another animal, which was the peacock. So they are communicating as well. So if you know you couldn't find the right image for your concept, like I said, always switch your brain to use what you have so that you don't get stuck. There are times where I think people always tell me that I have something in mind, but this is the stock image that I have. Well, also you need to remember there's a lot of possibilities. So always use, if you couldn't find that one possibilities, try on a second one, because you already have an idea that just execute it, but make sure you don't do it for the sake of, oh, I just want to do it because I have this. Just make sure that it looks good as well, right? Each of your work is super, super important for you because you are putting some time to get things done. Time is something that you never get back. So always utilize it in a way that, you do things, not to say perfectly, that makes you happy.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, well said. That's great. Another question, just while we have time, does Ramez seek inspiration from certain artists? And who are these people that impress him?
I think I did this question being asked before, right? Like, is there anybody you look up to and all that? And I always say that one person that you always should look up to is yourself, because I think it's not fair for you to. I think it depends how you take it, right? For example, how I see other artists is that they went through a lot. If you go to any websites like Behance, if you go under Explorer, you get to see all the different artists created amazing piece of artwork, right? So when you look up, meaning I want you to first look up to yourself first, see how far you have come. Because let's say if you've been practicing photo manipulation for 5 years, go back and see your first manipulation and the current one. Have you gone far? Are you happier now? And if it's not, then stop comparing yourself with other people, because it just will cause you stress, right? That person itself, I'm sure him or her have gone through a lot to achieve that artwork. So when you compare a person like, oh my God, I want to achieve this amazing artwork that the person done, it will just cause you stress, and probably you won't make it there. Reason is because you keep comparing yourself. So for me, if you ask me, the first idol, person you need to look up to is your artwork, because I do always go back and see my artwork, and I want to see, oh, this how far I've come, and I'm sure this is not the end. I want to go further, so that it motivates me. It does motivates me every single day. You have no idea. I do go Google and Google my name to see, oh my God, I've done that. Okay, never mind. Let's move on. Like, I want to create more awesome stuff. So yeah, it's okay if you want to. I really don't have anybody that I look up to. I always see my work and I see how far I've come, and I always challenge myself to go further. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. I think that's like a really unique perspective, but we can definitely learn something from that. So maybe one more question. How do you, let me see. How do you balance / manage other people's thoughts on what you need to change in your work? So we're talking about getting feedback from people, but then it's also how you feel. So how do you balance that?
It's all up to you. If a person say, add sparkle in there, does it make you happy? Because at the end of the day, you are the master of your work. People will say things, but of course, I'm not saying don't ignore everything. If it makes sense and makes you happy, add on. If it makes you stress and it feels like, oh, I don't think it's going to work, then don't do it. It's okay. There's no harm. Because end of the day, first, you need to make sure you are happy with your artwork. And also always, if it doesn't make sense, it's okay. Then don't do it, right? Your happiness at the end of the day is important. because only you know how far you have come A to Z, right? So yeah, so if it makes sense, get it and add on to your artwork. If it's not, it's okay, no problem.
Awesome. I love it. I love your outlook towards life and also towards your artwork. It's fantastic. A lot of people in chat saying the same thing. I wanted to give just a quick shout out as well, because you did an artist spotlight video tutorial with Adobe, which I think anyone that's interested in this will be very interested in that as well. I'm going to play like 30 seconds of it, and then I think Johanna's going to share it in chat for us. So let's just take a really quick look before we run out of time.
Hi, my name is Ramesh and I'm a digital artist from Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. In this video, I would like to share with you how I've used Photoshop to create one of my favorite pieces of art for Honor Heroes campaign by Adobe. It's a tribute to all the frontliners. Now, let me show you how it's done. First thing first.
All right. Well, you guys can check out that whole video. It's awesome. We've had a couple of the artists on this week who have been involved in this campaign, which has been super cool. We had TK North yesterday. We had Yuri as well, Narpati, yesterday afternoon. And now we have Ramesh. There's a couple of videos up there, so check it out. Obviously much shorter than 90 minutes that we've gone in depth here. But if you want a very short, quick kind of look into Ramesh, he's done a fantastic video for Adobe, so check that out. Yeah, but it's been fantastic. So we've got one more photo manipulation series planned
next week.
Week. So same time next week. I thought we would just very quickly just have a final look at what you've created today.
Okay, I'll just make it a full screen so that everybody can see it.
Amazing.
Let me just bring this up.
All stock photography. All done live. The only pre-work you did really was just gather the images, and obviously you had the story and everything planned out, but just so incredibly quick. So many different techniques that you used. I absolutely love that you used so many different techniques. Just to cut things out, like using the appropriate tool at the appropriate time, which is really great to see and something that we can all learn from.
So like I said, right, in order to understand like how do we come up with concept like this and all that, do always watch movies. I used to be a lecturer in one academy in Malaysia. Similarly, that's one of my advice. Watch a lot of movies, try to see how it's done. I'm not saying don't copy any of the scene, but recreate it. Like this scene, I've never even seen in any of the movies. But what I said earlier before I start is that I like Martian movies. So I'm sure each one of us have our own imagination. It's super important to respect that, because the idea that comes to us at times, maybe not many people gets it, right? So when you get that, I always think it as a blessing and utilize it. Try to see if you can find any stock images, gather them together. It's super important that you execute it, because if you don't do it, probably somebody else will get that idea and they execute it. And when you go to the internet, you go like, oh, I should have done it, right? Well, it's too late, right?
Yeah.
I'm sure a lot of artists have this, right? Even for myself, when I look at other people's artists, I don't get like what do you call, like carried away, like, oh my God, I should have done it. No, more like, oh, probably I will have my own idea later on. Let's see how I execute it, right? Creative people always have ideas, but no point if you don't execute it. So that's the reason why, if you look at my social media, Instagram and all that, every single day there will be something new, because it bothers me if I don't create something, because I feel like, oh my God, this idea I had in mind is something need to be shown to the world as well, because at times your idea might affect some people's life in a good way.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Absolutely. That's great to go out on. Thank you so much. Stick around for Andrew Hockradal and the Creative Challenge. We'll be there in chat, hanging out with you guys. It's been awesome. And thank you so much, Ramesh. Have a fantastic weekend, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.